Hi, this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the new moon solar eclipse that falls at 27 degrees Aquarius. And this one falls directly opposite the grand Regulus solar eclipse that was last August at 28 Leo. So it brings to completion projects or issues that were raised at that eclipse. And in some respects, that last eclipse was actually quite elite in its style, whereas this one seems to have more of a working class flavour about it. But the eclipse falls on fixed star Gina in the constellation of the Swan, so it still has a regal taste, since all white swans in the UK are supposedly owned by the Queen and they're protected by her. Now, both Mercury and Venus also fall in other stars in Cygnus, and those stars are Sador and Deneb Adighi, respectively. Gina is found in the Swan's wing, and that's why I called the post beneath Swan's wings. So the meaning of Cygnus, the constellation, it gives a contemplative, dreamy, cultured and adaptable nature, but the affections are ill-regulated and unsteady, and the talents develop late, but there is a love of water and swimming and the arts. So this one is yet another bird associated with Jupiter, and this time it's actually one of his animal disguises, and Jupiter took the form of a swan to seduce Leda, the queen of Sparta. So the general meaning of a solar eclipse really is that it's like a turbocharged new moon. Generally, new moon rituals are perfect for planting new seeds and starting afresh. And we are essentially working on the blank canvas of the dark moon, where our ideas can gestate in the new moon soil. But with an eclipse, the moon comes between the sun and earth. Therefore, the lunar interrupts the flow of energy and causes disruption. It breaks our habitual behaviors and it gives us a kind of cosmic reboot. So the moon blots out our masculine, it blots out masculine left brain energy for a while, so that the feminine right brain is flooded with instinctual and intuitive energy. And this makes the unconscious conscious, like when you become aware that you're dreaming. During an eclipse, like the lucid dream, we get that sudden feeling of hyper-awareness. We could do anything. So sometimes this is so awesome that we just don't know what to do, and others even become afraid of their own power. So at best, the effect of a solar eclipse can amplify insights gained from a very balanced left and right brain. And it's also very good at showing up any imbalances you have. So, for example, if you're on one leg in tree pose and the solar eclipse pokes you in the side, the amount of wobble shows just how much centering you need to do. A solar eclipse can bring an awakening or a shocking revelation that rocks you to the core. It aims to balance out left and right brain hemispheres, and therefore consciousness, so that you're not lopsided. But it's not a question of linear solar left brain is bad and cyclical lunar right brain is good. The person just cannot function at its optimum without the unification and balance of both hemispheres. Some people have equal hemisphere strength, but the sides are disconnected, so they flip from one extreme to the other. Many artistic and spiritual types are right brain dominant and thus can find it hard to ground themselves in 3D reality. So an eclipse may cause a crisis where the right brainer needs to strengthen boundaries and use rational thought. But with a left brain dominant, the more solar person, the opposite can happen, where boundaries are dissolved and they need to be open with their feelings. So now let's look at what the solar eclipse means by the decan that it's in. So both the sun and the moon are in Aquarius decan 3. Now with the sun, the occult influence is obvious. However, there is surprisingly great success in a conventional sense, which is unusual in an area of the sun's detriment. The stars do give it some power here, but the stars in the goat's fishtail always seem to bring some downfall. This would be because of the subject's uneasy connection with that difficult occult wisdom, maybe. So Abraham Lincoln had this, and he's quite a good example. He was known to be a religious skeptic, and in the end he was assassinated for his abolition of slavery. On the other extreme, we have Paris Hilton with this position, and she's totally a slave to the Matrix and its baubles. So here it's either all or nothing, really. You can sort of sell out totally or work to liberate us from serfdom, really. So if you play the game and surrender your sovereignty 100%, then you've basically sold your soul, you know. And once in a position of power, you cannot rebel against your paymaster or you will be brought down. So it's best to keep a low profile with this position and work underground. You can still work to bring down the system, but you have to be very clever about it. Now, Austin Kopok, who's another astrologer, and he focuses on the decans too, he calls this decan the knot, and he says, on a spiritual level, this face, because each decan is actually called a face, the 36 Faces is the name of his book, this face represents disenchantment with the fabric of everyday life and its petty terrors. It is a divine discontentment, the same that the Buddha felt before he left his comfortable home. Now with the moon, it actually fares much better in Aquarius 3. So this part, I think the lunar eclipse will be, this gives it its good side, really. Now here it can work its lunar magic peacefully under the moonbeams. In this placement, it's not tempted away from the soul's mission by the sun's egoistic yearning for glory. Those touched by this lunar eclipse then come to peace with themselves, with the fact that they'll never really be accepted by society, and it no longer bothers them too much as they already know how messed up the system is. There are a few natives with this position that did fall foul to the peculiar domestic conditions that come with this position. Woody Allen, for example, he has moon in this decan and he was famous for marrying his adopted daughter. Other natives, Samantha Fox, which she was a page 3 girl, topless model. She made a career out of looking like she was available for any guy while all the time concealing her true self. And in 2003, long after she was famous as the page 3 girl, when she finished her career, she actually came out as a lesbian. So that's pretty ironic, really. The moon rules the breasts as well, too. So this decan seems to be awash with paradoxes. The moon will bring this out in the home with a humanitarian mother. And Princess Diana, who also had this position for her moon, was, well, she certainly pushed boundaries about what is acceptable behaviour for a princess. Now, there is also a yod pointing to Ceres in this eclipse. So the lunar eclipse was conjunct Ceres, and this one has a yod pointing to Ceres. And I also talked about the yod to Ceres in great detail in the February forecast, so I won't talk about it too much here. But really the main aspect for the solar eclipse is that it's conjunct Mercury, and this can be very naughty or very nice, because this is the trickster we're talking about after all. And at best, this combination of logic and intuition gives great common sense, and it's a shape-shifting combo with rapid mood swings. A whimsical thought process will prevail. So this aspect finds it hard to get to the point, but it's very smart at observing the small details of everyday life. This moon then will do a great job of adding empathy and softening the tendency to nerd out with Mercury. Moon Mercury is also clever at spinning a yarn and serves comedians really well, since much comedy is based on truthful observation of everyday human habits. The archetype has the feel of the magician about it. So thoughts are things, and we could conjure up ourselves a beautiful community arrangement if we focus on our dreams for long enough. So in summary, there is an element of disguise really with this solar eclipse. So it could be about selling your soul to the devil or deciding to work behind the scenes incognito. Now what the swan does is make a perfectly benign feathery white costume from which you can work your magic under. Even the aspect of this eclipse has trickery involved, with Mercury being featured, And there's also Mars square Neptune as well, which adds yet more elements of deception and seduction as well also. So watch out for those false gurus and fake celebrities in the mainstream media. Now, looking at it on a mundane level, the last solar eclipse in August hit both the State of Israel chart, Benjamin Netanyahu's chart, and also Trump's Mars, all three. So yeah, Israel's Mars, Netanyahu's Mars, and Trump's. And they've all got their Mars, I mean, it's uncanny really, all at between the degrees of 26 and 28 Leo, so they're all conjunct. And I actually did a YouTube video about the relationship, so maybe I'll put a link to it at the bottom of this video. Now this time the solar eclipse will be opposite that degree, so there may be some trickery connected with Trump, Netanyahu, and Israel's role in the Middle East over the next 6 months, because solar eclipses are supposed to last for about 6 months. Also, Ceres, back to Ceres again, there is also a connection with Ceres, with opium, that I haven't mentioned, I don't think, on YouTube before. So this is a big deal, because the Ceres Yod actually could be pointing at the USA's problems with narcotics, because this Yod is pointing directly at the USA's North Node at 7 degrees Leo. So it's not just about the solar eclipse degree, it's also, I think this Yod is very, I mean, it's going to be active more or less all month, on and off, with different planets taking the role in, which is the degree, yeah, it's Venus, the Sun, and Mercury will all hit 6 degrees of Pisces at some point. So it's going to filter down to that 7 degrees of Leo and activate the Yod. Now, with the solar eclipse being visible in South America, this could bring up issues of drug smuggling from Mexico. And, you know, I've been informed by a few people who have sent me information about the opiate epidemic in the US currently. And, you know, this is by design, obviously, to keep us all dumbed down and doped out. Now, over here across the pond, the EU's chart has Pluto at 28 Leo, and Sweden will get this solar eclipse squaring their Venus-Lilith opposition, which is opposite Saturn. So if you don't want to include Lilith, it's just Venus opposite Saturn, and that says a lot about Sweden, I think. And I bring Sweden up as there have been rumblings of a possible civil war there. Some refugee centres are being burnt down. I don't know who by. Sometimes it's even the refugees themselves burning things. So I don't know. But there's also been a build-up of no-go zones as well. That's all over YouTube if you want to look that up. And they've become so unsafe that even the police don't want to enter it. So I've done a little bit more research into it since I wrote the post, and apparently like there are so many policemen who are just resigning. They can't cope. They've had, oh my God, they've had hand grenades thrown into their homes. They've had their cars set on fire. They're just under attack all the time, and they can't cope. You know, they're understaffed as well, because they didn't prepare for this. It's ridiculous. Before the government decided to import these people, they really didn't think ahead, did they? So, you know, it's getting to the point where they're going to have to bring the army in. Now, this is really odd as well. There's other things in the news that now this was an article that I just thought, what? It said Sweden sends leaflets to 5 million homes on how to prepare for war with Russia. Like, huh? And there's been a call for conscription as well. So I just think that's a smokescreen. And I think that goes very well with this kind of swan cover-up, you know. the white swan feathers over some very dark agendas. And I mean, this is the thing with swans. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You know, they can be very deceptive, you know. They look really beautiful and romantic, but if a swan clamps you with its beak, you know, those long necks can break the arm of a small child. So they're not, they can be quite vicious and deceptive. So it's quite a good metaphor, really, well, for what's going on in Sweden, and also maybe the Swedes themselves, because, you know, they were Vikings once upon a time, and, you know, Vikings were, I mean, I don't understand, you know, how did they become so submissive to what's going on in their country? I suppose this is what happens when political correctness becomes so a form of suppression that people are too scared and to speak out. And also I think it is to do with peer pressure. You know, peer pressure is a very strong thing, and conformity and wanting to be liked, you know. So now this is the kind of Viking lurking under the swan's feathers, under the white swan's feathers. It can be a bit of a spitting bitch duck. Well, we'll see what happens. This war with Russia just seems really strange. I mean, if there's, I don't think they need troops to fight with Russia. It just seems like it's stuff that's going on domestically, really. So I've already covered Sweden in another video as well. So both their charts, I'll put the links below because you can have a look at those. That you can see their charts are being activated by this eclipse. So yeah, it's the EU's chart. You know, if things kick off in Sweden, it's going to impact the rest of the EU, because I think what they're doing is they don't want to admit they made a huge mistake. The government of Sweden just don't want to admit mistakes. So or you know, we'll just say, no, you need to, we'll scare you about Russia. Let's scare you about Russia, and we need to conscript people to fight with Russia instead. They'll never admit it, you know. So, interesting eclipse, and we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be, it's actually on Valentine's Day in Los Angeles, but then it's on the day after in New York and Europe and in Australia as well. So, yeah, I'll link below to the post so you can come and have a look at the times. And yeah, that brings me to the end. I haven't got all right, have I got anything to whinge about this week? Well, you see, I've already just done a video about in answer to the colonization comments on the last video, the lunar eclipse. So I don't really need to rant this time. We'll just keep it astrology, shall we? Oh, I know what I will end it with, because this is also celebrities, isn't it? Swans, they can... See, these celebrities can do a lot of damage, and they are the new gods, and they glide around in their feathery white swan feathers. In fact, oh gosh, yes, Bjork actually wore a dress that was like a swan as well. So they glide along very regally with their really long necks, looking down at their fans, and it doesn't cost them a damn thing to say the things that they say, because they're not being affected by it. And I said this in the other video that I did too. So yeah, they are swans with their elegant long necks that can do a lot of damage. So anyway, this tweet visual, it said this: "Dear singers and actors, we spend our hard-earned money to hear your music and to watch you pretend to be characters in movies and on TV. Your only job is to entertain us, to take us away from reality. Your personal opinion means nothing to us. You are significant and influential only in your own mind and within the minds of your elitist peers. You are a marionette to us, nothing more. Sing, act, shut up." I just think that's really appropriate. All right then, I'll end it there. All the best. Happy solar eclipse. Bye-bye.